Hey y'all, welcome back. Today I am in the mood to play with makeup. I've recently been out shopping and I've seen a few things that I really wanted, but I ended up not buying because I've already got something here in my collection that I thought I could use to create a similar effect. If you want to find out what it is I'm tempted to buy and how I am duping the vibes here at home, then stay tuned and let's get right into this makeup tutorial. For my sunscreen, I am using the Dr. G Green Mild Up Sun Plus SPF 50 Plus with a PA rating of 4 plus. My sunscreen has been on for quite a while and I've just gone ahead and applied my foundation primer, e.l.f. Hydrating Face Primer. This is such an affordable gem. The texture is very similar to the original Smashbox primer, that very slippy silicone clear formula, but it does have a little bit of a hydrating aspect like the name implies. It smooths out texture, doesn't make you oily, doesn't make you feel dry. It's just a really great hidden gem that you can pick up for under $10. Let's get some foundation on. I feel like my skin is looking a lot more even over the past couple weeks than it has in a long time. So I am start with a thin layer of foundation, kind of see how I feel from there. Number one, the Chanel foundation. I wear the shade BR12. Got a little heavy. I took one full pump. I might use it all, I might not. We'll just kind of see what happens. A brush that I forgot about from my collection. This is the e.l.f. Airbrush Blender. If I'm not mistaken, this is part of their Precision collection. I am just gonna take a little bit of my foundation and start blending. Now, this brush is really, really lovely. Reminiscent of the BK Beauty number 101 Contoured Foundation, which is one of my all-time favorite foundation brushes. This has a very similar curved shape. And for me, one of the big differences is the price point is much different. This is e.l.f. I believe I picked this up for $12 or $14 on Amazon, whereas the BK Beauty is in the $30 price range, if I'm not mistaken. And it performs better, it cleans up easier. This one is a little bit more prone to shedding. So over the long term, if this is a brush you love, you might end up needing to replace it more than the BK Beauty. So in that situation, I feel like you would be better off long term buying the brush that's a little bit more expensive, because none of my BK Beauty brushes have ever shed on me. This brush though is really nice. I would say if you are curious about the shape, if you're someone who is used to using a foundation sponge, or if you're used to using like a flat paint style brush, then maybe try out this to see if you like the shape. And then if you do enjoy it, then you choose to upgrade to the BK Beauty. It definitely is a little bit stiffer. The synthetic fibers are a little bit more scratchy. They feel a little bit more plasticky, but not immensely. Like, this doesn't feel like you are exfoliating face. It just doesn't have that kind of kitten paw softness that the BK Beauty brushes are known for. I end up using the entire pump of foundation, so I feel like I just need a little bit more on my chin. For concealer, I'm going to use a favorite. This is the Ulta Beauty Youthful Glow Concealer in shade Fair Cool. This is like your favorite tinted moisturizer meets concealer. It is so sheer, but a little bit goes a long way. This is not going to be your full glam type of coverage product. This is great for those days where you want to still look like you want a very thin veil of coverage, but you just want to look perfected. You can see here on my chin, it's helping tone down the redness. It's unifying my tone with the rest of my face, but it still looks very thin and very skin-like. My neckline of my shirt is a little bit lower, so I don't want to overly perfect, because then if my face is super one tone, it's gonna look off compared to my neck and my chest. Because down through here, even though I treat it with my different skincare tools, devices, and I've had a series of IPL treatments done on my chest area as well, it still shows the effects of sun damage from when I was younger. So I can't overly perfect that without it transferring to my clothing. So I'm just gonna leave well enough alone and get them in the same ballpark. Using the Chanel Le Blanc Rosy Light Drops. I love this product so much. It is such a thin, lightweight liquid highlight with a sheer, cool-toned pinky glow. This is not going to give you a high impact glimmer or shimmer to the cheeks. You are going to simply polish. Like, if we look at my cheeks on this side compared to this side, it's so subtle, which is what I want to go for today, because with the Chanel Le Blanc collections, it's more about this overall brightening aspect, because if we translate Le Blanc from French to English, it is the white. So normally in cosmetics, when anything's referred to as blanc or white, it's normally relating to lightening and brightening. So we just want to create an overall brighter, fresh appearance. And I'm gonna take a pinch of my concealer. Again, this is the Ulta Beauty. And I'm gonna also use the Revlon Skin Awakening Concealer. This is the 5-in-1 concealer in shade 002 Universal Brightener. And with this sponge tip, I'm gonna take just a little bit right through there in the middle. And I'm gonna also use a little bit right through here, and I'm gonna brighten up right here. And to blend out, I'm gonna use the Rare Beauty, I believe this is just called the concealer brush. This is one of the first products I purchased from Rare Beauty when the brand launched. I don't know why, it just got lost in the shuffle, and it's something I never reach for, but it's really nice. I almost feel like I would prefer this for cream eyeshadow. I feel for concealer and the way I like to apply makeup, it's a little too small, a little too precise. Tend to prefer a larger brush. My general style of makeup, and this has been the whole way throughout my makeup career, whether I'm working on myself or a client, unless my client suggests something super precise and super perfected, my style is not generally super precise. I generally use a little bit of a fluffier brush for my applications. That way, things just feel a little bit more laid back, a little bit more relaxed, and a little less done. Because I don't really enjoy makeup looking overly done, overly perfected. I like there to be a little bit of a sensuality to the makeup. I want it to feel slightly lived in and just fresh. The MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly, and I want a little bit more coverage out of my eye primer because the colors that we're using on the eyes that are reminiscent of the Chanel Le Blanc Collection, that are a little bit more sheer. That's part of the beauty. It's very light and fluffy. I have such a soft spot in my heart for the MAC paint pots. When I worked at the counter, as far as priming the eyes go, you were normally either team paint pot or team Pro Longwear concealer. They came out with an eye primer I didn't personally care for. I felt it was a little too thick, a little too waxy. There was a few artists I worked with who really loved it. I prefer using something that can be a little bit more versatile. The paint pots are my favorite, but I found a lot of people use too much product. They'll use the traditional flat concealer brush and pack it on. Paint pots, if you put too much on, I find they crease up and get really ugly. You want to use something where you can really spread it and thin it out. I'm gonna set my face down using the powder mix I mixed up. So I'm not sure if the video where I talk about mixing powders has gone up yet or not. I had a few loose powders that they were okay. I wasn't obsessed with anything. So I was like, let's mix them all together. So I ended up mixing together the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores loose powder, Honest Beauty, I think it's called the Invisible Blurring Loose Powder. And then I mixed my Givenchy Prism Libre powder in 01 Mousseline Pastel, I believe is what the shade's called. And I put them all together, mixed it together in a large tub, put it in this container. Perfection. Now I cannot get enough of this powder combination. And it makes me happy because even though it's not something I can link to anymore, so if I was trying to link to a product for my description box or something, I would then have to link to everything I mixed. And you know, that mix isn't gonna work for everyone. Some people might find it too dry. Some people might find it doesn't set their makeup down well enough. But for me, my skin, it works really well, and it's allowing me to use more products from my collection. So for the most part today, the shadows I'm gonna be using are from Sydney Grace. And I have this small little palette that I just kind of use to pull certain shades to create the story I'm thinking of. So I've pulled 3 shadows from Sydney Grace for this, but one of the standout shades from the Chanel Le Blanc palette is the pale orange. And when I swatched it in store, it's almost like a mix of a peachy orange and a cantaloupe orange. I'm gonna be using a shade from this little quad right here. This is from the brand Rom&nd, and this is called Dry Strawberry. So I'm gonna use the little soft orange color. And I am gonna start by using an e.l.f. Fluffy Eye Blender Brush. I'm gonna work this through my socket. You're not going to notice a huge color payoff. It's more about creating an effect. I'm gonna also run this color right under my eyes as it will serve as a nice base color. Now, something I did notice about this when I swatched all the shades. Now, I saw everything at Hudson's Bay, the Eaton Center location. That is where I previewed the Chanel Le Blanc collection for 2023. Similar to years past, it's it's not the most versatile collection. I feel like you've got to have a fairly light skin tone for the colors to work well. Like this orange shade, and there's also a soft lemon shade in the palette. I feel like those two colors on a darker skin tone could pull very ashy, very gray. So that's something to be cautious with. It would be nice if they would come out with some variations for deeper skin tones. So now that I have that color on, I want to layer on something a little bit more punchy on the eyelid. I am going to use this color from Sydney Grace. This color is called Spring Fling. Very fitting. We are officially in spring now. I'm going to use the Hourglass number 3 brush. I'm going to apply this right over my eyelid. The color that I was looking for an alternative for in the Chanel quad, there is a slightly rosy, coppery brown. It's not a true rose. It's not too pink. It's not too red. It's not too brown. It's a nice melange of all of them, plus a little bit of a coppery color. And I don't have anything quite like that. This color on the eyelids is nothing like it. This is definitely pulling to, it's almost feeling a little bit of a frosty lilac taupe, but that's okay. Very similar effect. And this is going to end up being more of a background color for me. And I really like, that's actually really nice. I feel like I like that better than that more rosy bronze color. Now I'm going to take a smaller flat brush. This is the Rephr number 28, and I'm going to use the Sydney Grace Temptalia collaboration color. This is called Dear Reader. One of the colors that really jumped out to me in the quad, a violet shade. I believe it is the top left corner. It's not a true red violet. Like, it's definitely more purple than it is red, but there is a little bit of a slightly neutral leaning warm pinky red undertone to the violet shade. This shade, Dear Reader from Sydney Grace, is a little bit more of a cool tone shade, which is what I prefer. Tends to meld better with my skin tone and coloring. This is not an overly precise look. In a way, you're almost creating butterfly wings. You've got little bits of orange, little bits of purple, pink. We're gonna throw in some yellow. It's like a spring butterfly watercolor effect. It's very pretty, very whimsical. And that's a very common theme, I feel like, with most of the Chanel Le Blanc collections. There's always an element of whimsy to them, which I find quite appealing. And like I said, we're duping the overall vibe. We're not creating like a carbon copy duplicate of a palette. Also from Sydney Grace, this is called Tangy Citrus. This color made me fall in love with yellow again, and not just within makeup, but in clothing and my nails. Just, I thought I couldn't wear yellow. Yellow and orange were two colors I thought were just off the table for me. I thought they never worked for me. And then on a whim, I purchased this eyeshadow color, and holy smokes, it is stunning. I'm going to use the other side of the Rephr number 28 brush. I'm just wiping off any residual product on a tissue. So I'm gonna use the clean side, pick up Tangy Citrus. I'm gonna press down here on the inner corner and pull over. Look at that. Just so pretty. The yellow eyeshadow in the Chanel Le Blanc was almost enough to make me buy the quad for that color alone. And then I thought, I was like, I do have that color at home. I don't need two bright yellows, but I really wanted it. I was tempted, but wow, look at this color. I'm gonna spread it down to the lower lash line. Really open up the eyes. That is just perfect. This is perfect for spring. I feel like I want to ground the look a little bit, deepen up the lash line. A Sephora Collection Retractable Eyeliner in the shade number 15 Slate. And I'm going to use this to tightline my upper lash line. Not super noticeable, but it adds just enough. Also from Rom&nd, and this is the Han All Fix Mascara in shade L02 Long Ash. Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten Powder Foundation in the shade Porcelain with my Rephr number 13 brush. I just want to brighten up and add a little bit more coverage right to my lower lash line. I want to apply this with a fluffy eyeshadow brush because I don't want to cake it on and make it look too heavy. I'm just using it to brighten up and flatten out the area. That way when I apply shadow, it's going to look just a little bit more intentional, which will make it feel a little bit fresher. I'm gonna switch over to a MAC number 219 pencil brush, the Sydney Grace shade Spring Fling. I'm gonna pick up some of the purple shade called Dear Reader. I'm gonna use my MAC Fix Plus, give it a mist to dampen it, and I'm gonna use just a little tiny bit of this here on the outside corner of the lower lash line. And if you need to, tilt your chin up and connect to the outside corner. And then I'm gonna use my flat brush, the rougher number 28. Use the side that I applied the purple with before. Gently buff over. Just gives it a little bit of a smoky drama on the outside corner. I'm gonna go back to the little dry strawberry quad from Rom&nd, and I'm gonna take the dark brown with the rougher number 13 brush, and I'm gonna take my brush and dot in the brown and back into that peachy orange color. And then I'm gonna use this with a very light hand, so holding my brush very low down out here in the outer corner, I'm just gonna slightly deepen up and pull it right to the arch of the brow. This is very much like you are painting and you are just adding in a shadow. We're gonna go back to our fluffy brush, very light hand. It should look like it's barely making contact with your skin, and you are just going to glaze over the perimeter and softly blend. So if you look at this side versus this side just looks a little bit more grounded, has a little bit of a smoky haze to it, and it gives it a je ne sais quoi, or just something special that this side doesn't have. In the Chanel collection, there is an illuminating blush that stole my heart. That is the one thing I wanted more than anything, but then I saw the price tag and it was $90, and I'm like, ooh, that feels a little steep for a blush. I won't do that right now. I've got so many pink blushes and pink sheer illuminating products. So I'm like, I can dupe this at home. So I'm going to dupe it. First, I'm gonna use a product from the brand 2AN, and this is the Dual Cheek in the shade Love Rosy. I'm gonna take my IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe French Boutique brush, and I'm going to start with the darker shade. This is gonna be warmer and more peachy than the Chanel blush, and it's also matte. So this is not going to be a dupe by any means for that color, but we all know I love to layer blush, and this formula is so smoothing. If you are someone who has enlarged pores or unwanted texture on the cheeks, try to get your hands on this formula. 2AN for me was a little bit trickier to find. I ended up finding mine on Amazon. You can see it just gives that really beautiful pinky flush to the outside of the cheek. And as I blend, I'm gonna pull into the outer corner of the eyeshadow up into the temples. Very much a draped effect. And I feel like I went a little bit heavier on that side than this side, so I'm gonna take a little bit more. I'm gonna wipe my brush off on a tissue just to remove any of the excess powder. The lighter shade, I'm gonna use this shade right here to brighten up the front of the cheek. There is a huge trend for these lighter pastel brightening shades. They're even referred to as expanding shades, as they're a little too light to be a true blush. It's almost like a matte blush hybrid or highlighter hybrid that will use to expand and project an area forward, much like a highlighter would, but it's more blushy, and in a way it feels more natural because you normally are layering it with another blush. Great for giving that very youthful, jovial, brightened effect. From NARS, this is the shade Impassioned. Same brush to go right in between those other two shades, sticking with my now signature 3 shades of blush. 3 shades that are different yet similar. The 2 shades from 2AN were a little bit warmer, whereas NARS Impassioned is much cooler. It almost feels lilac-y. And if we think about our eyes, we do have some orange and coppery shades within the crease in the outer corner of the eye. Then we have our violet within the outer corner of the eye and the lower lash line. So that way everything is still harmonizing. We're playing with light colors for light colors. Now to create that shimmering pink effect, the Sydney Grace Keep It a Secret highlighter. I'm gonna take the shade right here, layer it on. So pretty. Pick up NARS Impassioned, a little bit more of the Sydney Grace, and work that mix of the 2 colors right here on the middle point of the cheek. Pick up my Chanel highlighting powder in shade 40 White Opal. There's a lot of glow on the cheek. It's actually coming together a lot better than I thought it would. I felt like I need a little bit more of a pop of pink on the back of the cheek. I'm gonna take my little Eco Tools brush, and I'm going to pick up quite a bit of the darker blush from 2AN, and I'm gonna apply this right back. Oh yes, look at that. Perfect, 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 perfect. Good measure, nose, chin, whatever's left right around the forehead. I'm gonna take my powder brush, just skim over, make sure there's no additional product sitting on top looking cakey, which in my mirror, I'll even come up closer. we're looking quite smooth. I'm very happy with that. MAC Love Me Liquid Lip Color in the shade Hey Frenchie. I think these are still around. I guess I'll find out when I'm going to do my linking. I'm gonna take a little bit, rub my lips together, and spread the color out. Now this collection does have lip colors in it. Wasn't overly compelled to really look at the colors. I just didn't feel like it. I saw the highlighting illuminating powder, and then I saw the eyeshadows, and then saw the price for the illuminating powder. And I'm just like, I don't need this. So we're just gonna stop looking right here. And then I was like, I will figure out what color in my mind goes with this color story the best. So I thought this would do really well. I want to add the brightening aspect to the lips. So I'm going to layer something on top of this. And I want to play with that purpley tone. A Burt's Bees lip shimmer in the shade Watermelon. If you are someone who likes a cool toned purpley lip that is still wearable, check out these Burt's Bees lip shimmers. If you are someone who subscribes to seasonal color analysis, if you are someone who is a cool summer, soft summer, dark winter, or a true cool winter, this would be a great everyday, no makeup kind of color. For me, my coloring falls into the light summer. I can still get away with this, but it's a little bit more poppy on me. And the best way to finish off a look is with fragrance. I have 3 fragrances that I am in the mood to layer. Today, I did not use a scented body lotion. I just used my CeraVe moisturizing lotion in the pump bottle as my base layer fragrance. I used one I am in love with. I'm kind of thinking, should I have picked up the large bottle? But when this bottle runs out, I will pick up the next one. Narciso Rodriguez, and this is Fleur Musque for her. This is a really beautiful, musky, floral scent. It does have a predominantly slightly peppery, rosy note in the front, and then it dries out. You get that classic Narciso Rodriguez mousse that they're known for, musc or musk. It's a great grounding note in a fragrance. I like to choose a scent for my hair, spray it on my hairbrush, and then brush it through. And that's something I can do on the days when I'm not shampooing to make my hair feel a little bit fresher. The one I'm using today to really play off the rose note is from Acqua di Parma Rosa Noble hair perfume. This smells nearly identical to the Eau de Parfum version. It is so good. I am so tempted to track down Peony Noble and Magnolia Noble because they all smell so good. I personally enjoy the hair perfumes more than I do the Eau de Parfum variation. That since this fragrance entered my collection, I mix it with everything. This is one of the first fragrances that feels like a true signature scent. And I have to say a massive shout out to a small little boutique here in Toronto called Niche Essence. I cannot think of her name. The sales associate that I normally work with, she is the most fabulous French lady. She has a short pixie cut style and she knows fragrance like no one's business. And she was telling us that there is a brand for everyone. And there will be some brands where you smell things that are nice. Then there are other brands where you feel like the perfume is made for you. It is a perfume that becomes you. And if you find that house that works for you, then you will find there's some flexibility in the different fragrances and there will be different ones for different occasions. The brand is MDCI Paris, La Belle Helene. It is the most beautiful pear-centric fragrance. La Belle Helene dessert, which is very popular in French cuisine. It is a caramelized peach dessert that is decadent, and the perfume is equally decadent. It is marketed towards women, but if you know me, my general style and outlook on everything in life, it can be marketed to whatever it wants. If I like it, I'm gonna buy it and bring it into my life. I was like, okay, fine. She's like, do you have any questions? And I was like, I do. Do you take American Express? And she's like, absolutely. We had a laugh on that, and then she walked to the back to grab me a bottle. And she was like, unfortunately, I'm out of stock. I'm gonna have to order it, and shipping does take a while. I'm like, okay, that's fine. She gave me 2 samples. She said they will last me for a while. The decants that she gave me they're lasting. I need 2 mist, and not because I'm trying to conserve it, but 2 mist, and that perfume goes from my perfect scent bubble that radiates about an arm's width away to any more than those 2, and it is beast mode. You are going to smell me from 2 blocks down the street, and it's powerful. That 1 spray or 2 sprays keeps it very close, very intimate, very comforting. It's a perfume that you can wear day or night, although I do feel it leans a little bit more daytime and warm weather. That being said, it was snowing the other day and I wore it and it was just perfect. Over the weekend, my husband and I went to Bayview Village. We were walking around looking at things and I was like, oh, let's pop in there. Maybe they got the perfume back in stock. So I came in and then I was like, hey, she's like, how are you? She's like, are you enjoying the sample? I was like, I'm loving it. I was like, I haven't heard anything from the store. And she's like, well, that's because we haven't got it in stock. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I kind of felt like, well, no duh. She hasn't called because it hasn't arrived and I'm just being impatient because I want it. So then my husband and I were sniffing around. There was another young man who began working with my husband trying to find him his perfect fragrance. And of course we started smelling around and then I smelled La Ravissante. This is beautiful. Here's the bottle in all of her glory. You have the same portrait. Wow. Wow. So for me, if you've seen my perfume collection video, you know I associate fragrances or perfumes with memories and scent memories. That's why I love Rose. Rose is just something that feels so comforting and just so timeless to me. This does not have rose in it. This is something I can't put my finger on. I know it has starfruit, marshmallow in the base. It's got a bunch of different really warm, cozy gourmand notes, but this doesn't smell gourmand. It doesn't smell floral. When I smelled this for the first time, I was like, what is that? I need this. And more is more. This has no scent memory because it feels like it was a perfume made for me. And this is one now that when it runs out, it will be like auto replenish. Like, oh no, I have a little bit left. Let's buy a new bottle. That being said, MDCI, they are a French niche perfumery brand. They are a little bit pricey. If I had this sooner, I don't think I would have bought as many as I did. It's so fascinating because I love this. But I mean, I also love the other two I'm wearing today. Like all three of the perfumes I'm wearing today, these feel like genuine creations that are layerable. Everyone needs a good mousse or musk fragrance as a sensual layering piece. Something that is a little bit more animalic, that has an element of sensuality to it. It's quite lusty, which is great for making things stick. Signature scent, something that transcends season, time of day, period of your life, something that you can wear all the time. For me, that is now this. And then you need something fun, and for me, that is my Aqua de Parma hair mist. Scent bubble. And then she gave me another sample. That one is called Sheep Palatine, and that is a roller coaster. I am still very new to the sheep or cypress perfumes, and when you put it on and smell it, it sounds horrible to say, but it does feel very dated. It feels very mature, almost antique, but that in the same way makes it feel it transcends time. When I put it on, it smelled it, and she was the one that told me, she's like, close your eyes, take a deep breath, smell your fragrance. And what you see, when we were in Virginia last time, my husband and I, we watched Crimson Peak, and for some reason I was smelling it and I could see the house from Crimson Peak, the gorgeous mansion that was once glorious, but it has now worn down. There's a hole in the ceiling with the snow coming down, and I was like, it smells like a gothic mansion that is beautiful, but it's also falling apart. It might be haunted, but there's also elements of luxury and class within this home. And then I just kept smelling it, and I was like, I don't know what to say. I was like, in a way, this does feel like something that my grandma would wear, but at the same time, it also feels very modern, unexpected, and I love that. I was like, she's like, what do you see? Like, how do you see pairing this? I was like, oh, definitely. Like, going out at night, I'm going out with friends, maybe we're gonna go out to eat, maybe go out for a cocktail or something like that. That feels like the perfect thing. Like, it feels very vintage, very smoky, very seductive, definitely cool weather, nighttime. I was like, I don't know what to say. She's like, let me make you a sample. She's like, this is one that you're gonna either love it after a little bit or you're gonna despise it. She's like, take a sample. I'm like, okay. And I've worn it a few times and I just can't. It's living up here rent free. It's not gonna be something I run out and buy right now, but watch out. Next fall, winter, I think that will be coming into my collection unless I just have a major shift with it. Anyway, that is my rambly makeup application. I've done my makeup using products already in my collection to replicate the vibe or the color story that I picked up off of the Chanel Le Blanc 2023 collection, and a little bit of a story about my new signature scent in my collection that has just changed the way I think about fragrance, and just my new profound love for fragrance as well as coloring my hair at home. If you found this enjoyable, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next video. Take care of yourself wherever it is you are in the world. Bye, y'all.